What's going on, everybody? Wanted to hop on today and talk about the trade that I took this morning on NQ. I ended up taking a long towards all-time highs, and like always, I just want to walk through my trade thesis, trade confirmations, and trade management. So let's get into it. So to start off, a couple Fridays ago, we had the drop lower with Trump announcing the uh, heightened situation with China and tariffs. And then during the weekend, he also tweeted that the situation is handled and everything is going to be okay. So we had a large gap up. But in the gap down, we had a sweep below internal daily sell side liquidity. And then after the gap up that following week, we kind of just consolidated within that large price drop. And then to finish off last week, we manipulated below a daily sell side liquidity and then started moving higher. So now that I see that internal sell side liquidity is being respected, I want to see a move back towards these relatively equal highs at all time highs. And yesterday, we moved higher without sweeping internal sell side liquidity first. So today, I wanted to see if we would sweep internal sell side liquidity from the previous day, the previous session before moving higher. And that's exactly what we got right here on the 1 hour chart. We can see we have this 1 hour 4 p.m. low, and going to mark that. And then now we also have these relatively equal highs that are resting underneath the all-time highs. So we have relatively equal highs with all-time highs. We have the high here, here, and here. And a big part of my system is targeting relatively equal highs in the direction of the higher time frame draw on liquidity. So to start the day, when I got to the desk this morning, what I noticed is we did not shift delivery to the upside after the London session swept the internal sell side liquidity. So now that I see that the London session did not offer the reversal, I'm expecting it during the New York session. So if we're targeting buy side liquidity, I first want to see manipulation into sell side liquidity before we move higher. And then after we see that, then I'll drill down into my 1 minute entry time frame, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute before I look for my entry confirmations. But this is the most important part right here when we're looking to enter is the proper manipulation lower. Because if we were to just expand higher, I would probably just be hands off. But if we manipulate lower, take out these sell stops, and then go higher, that looks a lot better to me. So at market open, we had the manipulation lower into sell side liquidity. So now all I'm waiting for is a shift in delivery, which to me is identified as a run through a previous fair value gap and then a change in the state of delivery to the upside. So it was very important to be patient this morning because we have a fair value gap here that didn't get ran through, a fair value gap here that didn't get ran through, a fair value gap here that didn't get ran through. And you can become very offsides trying to bottom tick the market when there's just not the correct confirmations yet. So a big part, that's why waiting for an inverse fair value gap and a change in the state of delivery is a big part for me. So we are at 10 a.m. now at this point. We get one more move lower. We take out internal sell side liquidity, and then we also move higher to then run through this fair value gap and change the state and delivery to the upside. So now I have all of my proper confirmations. I have my relatively equal highs. I have my inverse fair value gap. I have my change in the state of delivery. And then I also, most importantly, have the correct manipulation leg after market open. So I entered into my longs once I noticed that we were sustaining value above this fair value gap and changing the state of delivery. And I was going to target the 930 highs because I was okay with a 2.4 risk to reward ratio. And then we moved higher after 10 a.m. And then this is actually where I took my trade off right here because as NQ was working its way to the 930 highs ES had already reached those highs. And then another red flag for me was these breakaway fair value gaps right here started to get ran through. So once this first fair value gap got ran through, um, that's when I took my trade off for about a 1.5 R winner, which I'm okay with because I'm accepting this trade management. Because one thing that I notice is with tricky days like this, sometimes we pop into buy side liquidity from the 9:30 open and then move lower one more time. And that's exactly what happened. We ended up moving lower and formed another SMT ultimately before we moved higher towards the ultimate buy side liquidity. And we can see now that there is an SMT at these highs because ES was able to go and take that buy side liquidity below all time highs, and NQ is failing to do so. So, just entering into a trade and coming up with a thesis to enter a trade and then potentially see a bunch of money come into your account, that's all well and good. But you also have to make a plan to protect against the downside as well. And that's exactly what I did this morning. I could very much say that like I wish this could have ran higher, but ultimately, or I wish this could have at least ran to the 9:30 buy side liquidity. But ultimately, I saw my setup, I took it, I saw red flags during the setup, so I ended up taking it off, and I'm happy that I did. Came out with about an $835 winner for the day, and then just gonna move on to the next session and see what happens after we have taken these buy side this buy side liquidity on ES, but not on NQ. But that's the trade for today. A good winner, first trade of the week. So we'll see how the rest of the week shapes up. But I hope you guys trade safely, and I'll talk to you guys next time.